Lead researcher Tay adjusted his uniform as the transport craft settled onto the main deck of the research vessel. His heart beat quickly with excitement. This mission would make his career. After months of quietly observing the newly discovered planet Earth, they had finally secured live specimens. "Bring them in carefully," he ordered as the loading crew activated the hovering mechanism beneath the 3 stasis pods. These are the first human juveniles ever studied. The pods glided silently through the air, their transparent tops revealing 3 small forms inside. Ty had personally selected these specimens from a rural area where their brief absence would likely go unnoticed. The extraction had been flawless, a quick deployment of sleek gas through bedroom windows, followed by the silent collection team. Jin, his most trusted assistant, moved alongside the pods, tablet in hand. Vital signs are strong despite the stasis field. The smallest one's brain activity suggests it might be dreaming. The research bay doors slid open, revealing a laboratory specially prepared for these subjects. The white walls housed advanced scanning equipment, observation cameras, and containment fields designed to keep the specimens secure while allowing for detailed study. "Place them in the primary examination area," Ty instructed, "and prepare the translation software. I want to attempt communication as soon as they're awake." The ship hummed quietly as the stasis pods were secured to the main platforms. Ta studied the 3 sleeping forms with professional interest. They appeared so similar to his own species in basic structure: 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, yet the differences were fascinating. Their skin tones varied slightly, their faces structured differently than his people's elongated features. "The Council doubted the value of this mission," Ta said softly to Jin as she calibrated the monitoring equipment. "They thought humans were just another primitive species, but look at what they've built on their planet. Cities, vehicles, communication networks. All this despite their limited lifespans. There's something special about them." "And you believe studying the young ones is the key?" Jin asked, adjusting the sensors above the smallest specimen. "Exactly. Adults have already formed their patterns of thinking. To truly understand a species, you must study how they develop." Ta moved closer to the pods. "Begin revival process. Low stimulation setting. We don't want to frighten them." A soft hum filled the room as the stasis field dissipated. The colored lights on the pods shifted from blue to green. Jin watched her instruments carefully. Brain activity increasing. They should regain consciousness within moments. Ta stepped back slightly, giving the specimen space. This was the moment he had been waiting for. First contact with conscious humans. Would they be capable of reason, of understanding, or were they merely clever animals? The largest specimen stirred first. A boy of approximately 14 Earth years, according to their research. His eyes fluttered, then opened fully. For a moment, he stared at the ceiling, confusion evident on his face. Then came the expected reaction: alarm. The boy tried to sit up, only to find himself restricted by the gentle restraints. Before Tai could activate the calming field, the other 2 specimens awoke. The middle one, a female around 12 Earth years, immediately began looking around with wide eyes. The smallest, a male of perhaps 10 years, made a small sound of surprise. "Activating translation receivers," Jin said quietly, tapping her tablet. "They should pick up anything the specimens say." The largest boy spoke first, words flowing rapidly in their Earth language. The translator converted it moments later. "Where are we? What happened?" Before Tai could decide how to respond, something unexpected happened. Instead of continuing to panic, the children began to whisper to each other. The translator caught fragments. "Not human. Look at the ceiling. Some kind of lab." Most surprising of all, their fear seemed to be rapidly replaced by curiosity. The smallest one even stopped struggling against the restraints to examine the technology around him. "Remarkable adaptation speed," Jin noted, watching her readings. "Their stress hormones are already decreasing." Ta stepped forward where the children could see him clearly. "Excellent specimens," he said to Jin. though his words were for the crew members observing from the control room. The council will be pleased with our initiative in studying these new beings. The children fell silent, staring at him with wide eyes. Then, to Ta's surprise, the middle child smiled slightly. See. Ta gestured toward them, pride evident in his voice. Completely docile. In the pods, unnoticed by the aliens, the three children exchanged knowing glances and continued their whispered planning. Ta could not believe the data on his screen. The vital signs from Containment Pod 3 had flatlined exactly 14 minutes ago, yet the emergency systems had failed to alert anyone. He rushed from his quarters, heart pounding as he made his way to the research bay. "Status report," he shouted as he burst through the doors. Jin looked up from her monitoring station, confusion evident on her face. "All normal, sir. The specimens are resting after their cognitive tests." Todd pointed to his portable screen. "This shows the youngest one has no life signs." Jin frowned and turned to her console. The color drained from her face as she checked the readings. "That's impossible. I've been watching them continuously." They both turned to look at the containment pods. Three small forms appeared to be sleeping peacefully inside the glowing energy fields. Tai approached the third pod cautiously. The smallest child, Doyun, lay perfectly still, eyes closed. "Too still. Deactivate the field," Tai ordered. As the humming energy barrier disappeared, Tai reached forward to check the child's pulse. His hand passed straight through what should have been solid flesh. "A projection," he gasped, pulling back his hand as if burned. "Sound the alarm." Before Jin could reach the emergency panel, the ship's overhead lights dimmed briefly. The security screens around the room flickered and displayed the same message in their own language. "Looking for us." Sunwoo rushed in, his typically calm demeanor shattered. "Sir, they've done it again," he reported, showing Ta the security feed where Doyun had somehow bypassed the supposedly impenetrable energy field of his containment pod. The recording showed the small boy sliding through the barrier as if it weren't there, then helping the other two children escape. "Impossible," Ta muttered, watching as the three children disappeared into an access panel that should have been sealed. "When was this recorded?" "Nearly 2 hours ago," Sunwoo admitted. "The system only just released the footage. It's as if they told the computer to delay the alert." Tai straightened his uniform, trying to maintain his composure. "Lock down all critical systems. Activate the internal security drones. Find them." The crew scrambled to follow his orders, but strange things kept happening throughout the ship. The gravity in the dining area suddenly reversed, leaving several crew members stuck to the ceiling. The door to the weapons locker repeatedly opened and closed on its own. The universal translator began rendering all announcements into nonsensical rhymes. 3 hours into the search, the ship's lights flickered again. When they stabilized, Ta found himself standing alone in the research bay, separated from his search team. "Hello," he called out, reaching for his communication device. It was missing from his belt. Approaching the now empty containment pods, Ta froze. Where the children had been held, he found a crude drawing made with what appeared to be food coloring from the nutrition dispensers. It showed a figure clearly meant to be him, with an absurdly oversized head and tiny body, running from 3 small figures. Jin's voice came through on the overhead speaker. "Sir, we've located them in the ventilation system near the engine room, but they've changed directions each time we get close." Tai studied the drawing, noticing small symbols along the bottom that resembled their written language, but slightly wrong, as if copied by someone who didn't understand the meaning. "How are they manipulating our systems without understanding our language?" Jin asked when she arrived minutes later, her voice shaking as she saw the drawing. Ta had no answer. These were supposed to be simple juveniles of an underdeveloped species. His research indicated human children were helpless, dependent creatures who needed constant adult supervision. Yet somehow, these 3 had not only escaped containment designed to hold dangerous predators, but were playing with his ship's systems like it was a game. A small beeping sound drew their attention to the floor. Doyen's medical monitoring bracelet lay there, blinking. When Tai cautiously picked it up, a child's voice emerged from it, speaking broken words in the alien's own language. Hide and seek. We hide. You seek. Fun game, yes. Tai and Jin exchanged horrified glances as the lights dimmed once more. Commander, the navigation system is now playing something called Baby Shark on repeat, reported the pilot, removing his audio receptors in frustration. I cannot make it stop. Tai massaged his temples, feeling the beginning of a headache. It had been 18 hours since the human children escaped. 18 hours of escalating chaos across the research vessel. Sir, you need to see this. Sunwoo called from across the bridge, his voice tight with concern. Security footage from Deck 3. Ta hurried over to Sunwoo's station. The monitor displayed a clear view of the ship's main computer terminal. Two of the children, Minho and Juwoo, were hunched over the keyboard while Doyeon kept watch at the door. Minho's fingers danced across the alien interface with surprising confidence. That's impossible, whispered Ta. Those terminals require genetic authentication and knowledge of our programming language. Yet the footage clearly showed Juwoo pointing at symbols on the screen while Minho entered commands. The terminal responded, screens changing as complex code scrolled past. They're reprogramming our environmental systems, Sunwoo explained. But how? They don't know our language. They shouldn't even understand our technology. Before Tai could respond, the lights on the bridge shifted to a pulsing purple. The temperature dropped noticeably, and a sweet floral scent filled the air. They've changed our atmospheric settings to match their planet's springtime, Jin reported from her station, looking up from her readings with disbelief. It's actually pleasant. The ship's AI activated unexpectedly, its smooth voice filling the command center. Attention crew. I must report unauthorized access to food synthesizers in sections 4, 7, and 12. Unknown consumables are being produced. Ta grimaced. What kind of consumables? Items classified as chocolate ice cream, pizza, and chicken nuggets, the AI responded. Additionally, Weapons Locker 3 has been accessed. Small defensive tools have been removed. Defensive tools. Ta's voice rose in alarm. Which ones? Stun batons and adhesive restraints, the AI clarified. Jin looked up from her console. Sir, crew members on the lower decks are reporting incidents. What kind of incidents? Tai asked, dreading the answer. Officer Kyung entered the supply closet and was trapped by some kind of string web that sprayed him with cleaning solution when triggered, Jin reported, trying to maintain her professional tone despite the absurdity. Engineer Young reports stepping on a panel that released a substance the children created in the lab. It has turned her feet blue. As if on cue, a startled yelp came from the corridor outside the bridge. They rushed to investigate and found Sunwoo's assistant covered from head to toe in tiny colorful paper bits. They call it confetti, the assistant explained miserably. It was in the air vent. I can't get it out of my fur. Tai ran his hands through his head crest in frustration. These juvenile humans weren't behaving like captives or test subjects. They were treating his advanced research vessel like a playground. The traps aren't dangerous, Jin observed, helping the confetti-covered assistant brush off the paper pieces. They're just humiliating. They're testing us, Tai realized, learning our reactions, our weaknesses. A soft chime sounded from Ta's personal device. He pulled it from his pocket, surprised to see a message on the screen. It displayed in perfect alien script. We want to go home. Or else. How did they access your private channel? Jin asked, peering over his shoulder at the message. I don't know, Tai admitted. But this has gone far enough. The ship suddenly lurched to one side. Alarms blared as the main lights cut out, replaced by the dim red emergency lighting. Sir, called the pilot. The main propulsion system has been temporarily disabled. We're operating on auxiliary power. Ta stared at his device, where another message appeared. Catch us if you can. Main reactor room. They're playing with us, Jin whispered. Like we're the test subjects now. Ta straightened his uniform and tried to project confidence he didn't feel. Assemble a team. Non-lethal restraints only. We're going to the reactor room to end this game. As they left the bridge, no one noticed the small camera in the corner swiveling to follow their movement, or the quiet giggle that came through the ship's communication system moments after they departed. In the shadows of the maintenance tunnels, 3 children high-fived each other and prepared for the next phase of their plan. The reactor room trap had been clever. When Tai and his security team arrived, they found only a recorded message from the children playing on loop, while the actual sabotage happened in the ship's communication center. By the time they realized their error, the children had gained access to the long-range transmitters. Tai raced through the corridors, his breath coming in short gasps. The ship's systems were in chaos, doors opening and closing randomly, some sections experiencing zero gravity, while others had increased pressure. His carefully planned research mission had descended into a nightmare. "Sir, emergency transmission incoming." Jin's voice crackled through his communicator. It's from Earth." Ta froze mid-stride. "Earth? How is that possible? We're several light years from their system." "The children," Jin replied, her voice trembling. "They must have sent a message before we cut them off from the communication center. Patch it through to the main bridge," Tai ordered. "I'm on my way." When Tai arrived at the bridge, the main view screen was active. His crew stood staring at it in stunned silence. On the screen was a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, and her expression was cold as ice. "This is Ambassador Hannah of the Human Defense Fleet," announced the stern-faced woman on the view screen. "Return our children immediately." Ta stepped forward, straightening his posture. How had they found his vessel so quickly? His research indicated humans had only basic interstellar capabilities. "I am lead researcher Ta. How did you locate us?" The human's eyes narrowed. "Every human child born in the last decade as a subdermal tracker." "Did you really think we wouldn't notice when 3 of our children suddenly appeared light years from Earth?" Sun Wu leaned toward Tai and whispered, "Sir, sensors show multiple ships approaching. Advanced design, heavily armed." Tai cleared his throat. "There appears to be a misunderstanding. We are a peaceful research vessel. The specimens were collected for scientific study." "Specimens?" Ambassador Hannah's voice turned dangerously quiet. "They're merely undeveloped younglings," Tai explained, trying to sound reasonable. "For research. Human children," Hannah interrupted, "are fully sentient beings with rights. Taking them is our gravest offense." The crew fell silent as realization dawned. Ta felt a chill run down his spine. "In our culture," Hannah continued, "the protection of our children is our highest priority. Your abduction of these 3 has activated our defense protocols. We are prepared to take any action necessary to ensure their safe return." Tai swallowed hard. "We meant no offense. Our research indicated that human offspring were in a pre-sentient developmental stage." A cold smile appeared on Hannah's face. "Your research was flawed. And there's something else you should know about human children." As if on cue, the bridge doors slid open. The 3 children walked in, flanked by 2 of Ta's security officers who appeared to be following the children's lead rather than guarding them. "Hi, Ambassador Hannah," Juwu called cheerfully, waving at the screen. "Hello, Juwu," Hannah replied, her expression softening slightly. "Are you 3 all right?" "We're fine," Minho answered. "We've been learning about their ship. It's really cool. Did you know they use quantum fluctuation for their propulsion system?" Do-Yun, the smallest, held up what appeared to be one of the ship's engineering tablets. "I figured out how their translation matrix works. It's not very efficient." Taz stared at the children in disbelief. They had been loose on his ship for less than a day and had apparently mastered technologies that took his species years to learn. "And they're significantly more adaptable than adults," Hannah added, watching Ta's reaction. You've captured our most dangerous citizens. Dangerous, Tay repeated weakly. Human children learn faster than adults. Their neural pathways are more flexible, their minds more creative, Hannah explained. They haven't yet learned what's impossible, so they try things adults wouldn't consider. Minho grinned. We reprogrammed the food synthesizer to make ice cream. Want some? He offered a container to Ta. Ta looked from the ice cream to the approaching human fleet on his sensors, then back to the three children who had effectively taken control of his advanced research vessel in less than a day. I believe, Ta said carefully, that we have made a serious error in judgment. Ambassador Hannah, I would like to discuss terms for returning these remarkable individuals to your care. Behind him, Do-hyun whispered something to Ju, who giggled. Ta couldn't help feeling that the real negotiations were just beginning. The tension on the bridge could be cut with a knife. Ta stood rigidly before the view screen, facing Ambassador Hannah while trying to maintain his dignity. 3 human warships now surrounded his research vessel, their weapon systems powered but not yet targeting. It was a clear message: cooperate or face consequences. Ambassador Hannah. Ta began carefully. I propose we establish formal diplomatic dialogue. Our species was unaware of your cultural protocols regarding juveniles. Formal dialogue can begin after the children are safely returned, Hannah replied, her expression unyielding. Ta nodded stiffly. Of course, we can prepare a shuttle immediately to transport them to your vessel. Before Hannah could respond, the ship's communication system crackled and a cheerful voice interrupted their conversation. Hi, Ambassador Hannah. Ju's voice came through the ship's communication system. We've learned to fly the ship. Tay nearly collapsed as Hannah smiled proudly. He spun around to find the command console empty. The children weren't even on the bridge anymore. What? Where are they transmitting from? He demanded. Jin frantically checked her console. They're in auxiliary flight control. How did they get past the security locks? On the view screen, Ambassador Hannah chuckled. I see they've been busy. We've been exploring everywhere, Ju continued excitedly. The aliens have really cool technology. Their food machines can make anything you want. Another child's voice joined in. We've downloaded their star charts, Minho added. Did you know they have colonies in the Orient sector? And there are 17 other alien species they trade with. Tai felt the blood drain from his face. The star charts contained classified information about his people's territory and defensive positions. That information is restricted, he sputtered, looking desperately at his officers. How did they access the navigational database? Sun Mu shook his head in disbelief. The database requires top-level clearance and knowledge of our encryption protocols. It's impossible. Not for human children, Ambassador Hannah said, her voice carrying a hint of pride, despite the serious situation, especially not for these 3. Minho won the Global Youth Programming Challenge last year. Ju is considered a linguistic prodigy, and Do-hyun can solve complex mathematical equations faster than most computers. You sent us your brightest? Tai asked, horrified. No, Hannah replied. These are average children from a rural school. This is simply how human children are. The smallest child's voice now came through the speakers. I fixed their engine efficiency, Do-hyun announced proudly. It was only operating at 87% capacity because of a miscalculation in their quantum alignment. Tai felt his legs grow weak. His team of engineers had spent years developing that engine. Human children, Hannah explained to the stunned aliens, learn languages, technology, and adaptive skills faster than adults. It's why we protect them so fiercely. Their brains form new neural connections at an extraordinary rate until they reach maturity. But they're so small, Jin said quietly. We thought they were undeveloped, like our own young. Size can be deceiving, Hannah replied. Human children may appear physically vulnerable, but their minds are like sponges, absorbing everything around them, making connections adults would miss. A warning light flashed on the bridge console. Jin checked it and looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, someone has activated the library database transfer protocol. All our scientific and cultural data is being copied to an external drive." Before Tai could respond, Juwoo's voice returned. "Ambassador Hana, we're sending you everything we've learned. Their biology is really interesting. Did you know they have 3-chambered hearts?" Ambassador Hana's expression remained professional, but her eyes sparkled with barely contained amusement. "That's very helpful, Juwoo. The Science Ministry will be fascinated." Tai slumped into the command chair. His research mission had turned into a security nightmare. Not only had he violated what was apparently humanity's most sacred taboo, but 3 human children had compromised his ship's systems, stolen classified information, and were freely sharing his species' biological secrets. "I believe," Ta said carefully, "that we have severely underestimated your species, Ambassador." "Most species do," Hana replied simply. "It's how we've survived." "We're ready to come home now," Minho announced through the speakers. "But can we bring some alien ice cream? It's really good." Ta looked at the ambassador with newfound respect tinged with fear. "If these are your children, what are your adults capable of?" Hana's smile was enigmatic. "Let's hope you never have to find out." The docking bay hummed with activity as Ta's crew prepared for the formal exchange. His superiors had been contacted, and now High Commander Q observed the proceedings with a stony expression that promised severe consequences for Tai afterward. 3 human shuttles had docked with the research vessel, bringing a delegation of officials along with armed escorts. Tai adjusted his formal uniform, hoping to salvage what remained of his dignity and career. The last 48 hours had been the most humiliating of his professional life. His groundbreaking research mission had turned into an interspecies incident that would be recorded in the history books, not as the scientific achievement he had hoped for, but as a cautionary tale. "The human delegation is requesting entry," Jin reported, her voice tight with anxiety. Ta nodded. "Proceed with the exchange protocol." The airlock doors slid open, revealing Ambassador Hana leading a group of human officials. 2 armed guards flanked each side of the delegation, their weapons holstered but clearly visible. The humans maintained neutral expressions, but Tai could sense their underlying anger. "Ambassador," Ta greeted with a formal bow. "High Commander Q has joined us to oversee the return of your—" He hesitated, searching for the right word. "Your young citizens." High Commander Q stepped forward. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I extend our sincere apologies for this unfortunate incident. Researcher Tai acted without proper authorization." Tai winced but kept his composure. Being thrown under the transport was expected. "We agreed to return them," Ta said, "in exchange for formal diplomatic channels. Our species clearly has much to learn about one another." Ambassador Hana nodded curtly. "The Earth Council has authorized initial diplomatic relations, conditional upon the safe return of our children and assurances that no such incident will occur again." High Commander Q nodded solemnly. "You have our word." A commotion from the corridor interrupted the formal exchange. The 3 children came bounding into the docking bay, followed by several flustered crew members who seemed relieved to be rid of their charges. "Ambassador Hana," Juwoo called out, rushing forward before stopping short of the formal line that separated the 2 delegations. Her eyes sparkled with excitement rather than fear or trauma. "We learned so much." Minho and Do-Yun joined her, carrying several small devices that Tae recognized as data storage units from the ship's laboratory. "Before we go," Minho said with surprising formality for a child his age, "we have some demands." The human officials exchanged glances, while High Commander Q raised an eyebrow ridge in surprise. "Demands?" Hana asked, her tone gentle but cautious. "We want educational databases," Juwoo explained, "and cultural materials about their species and the others they've met. And we want promises of future scientific exchange," Minho added. "There's so much more to learn." Ta watched in disbelief as the children effectively took over the diplomatic negotiations. High Commander Q looked to Ta with an expression that demanded explanation, but Tai could only give a helpless shrug. "These terms seem reasonable," Ambassador Hannah said after a moment, turning to High Commander Q. "Would your counsel be amenable?" The High Commander appeared momentarily flustered before regaining his composure. "I believe we could arrange appropriate educational exchanges under proper supervision." Do-yun, the smallest child, approached Jin, who had been standing quietly beside Ta. He handed her a small device that she recognized as one of the ship's quantum calculators. "I fixed your quantum calculator. It was inefficient," Do-yun said matter-of-factly. "The alignment was off by 0.003%. It should work better now." Jin accepted the device with a bewildered expression. "Thank you." As the children rejoined the human delegation, a junior officer hurried into the docking bay and whispered urgently into High Commander Q's ear. Ta watched his superior's expression shift from confusion to alarm. "What do you mean, data breach?" the High Commander hissed, not quite quietly enough. Ta's stomach dropped as he suddenly understood. He looked at the three children, now standing innocently beside Ambassador Hannah, and saw Minho give him a small, knowing smile. The junior officer continued his report, and Ta watched in horror as his superiors discovered the children had copied vast sections of their scientific archives. Star charts, propulsion technology, biological research, information that would have taken human scientists decades to develop through conventional means. "Ambassador," High Commander Q said, his voice strained, "it appears your children have taken more than souvenirs from their stay." Ambassador Hannah's expression remained neutral. "They're curious by nature. I'm sure whatever information they gathered will be handled according to proper diplomatic protocols." As the children were escorted onto the human shuttle, Do-yun turned back and waved cheerfully to Ta. "Thanks for having us. Your ship was fun." Ta had never felt more relieved or more terrified. To see visitors leave his vessel. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Tai approached the central podium. 300 representatives from across the galaxy watched with interest. The incident with the human children had sent ripples through interstellar diplomatic channels. Once destined for disgrace, Ta had instead been tasked with compiling a comprehensive analysis of human development patterns. Today, he would present his findings. "Honored representatives," Ta began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. 6 months ago, I made a grave error in judgment that nearly sparked conflict with a previously unknown species. Today, I share what we have learned from that mistake." The massive view screen behind him displayed images of Earth, human cities, and finally, human children in various settings: schools, playgrounds, laboratories, and homes. "Human children represent an unprecedented evolutionary strategy," he explained, gesturing to brain scans that appeared on the screen. "Their neural plasticity allows them to outperform adult aliens in adaptive problem-solving. While most species are born with instinctual knowledge and limited learning capacity, humans are born with almost none. Instead, they develop extraordinary abilities to absorb, process, and apply new information." Murmurs spread through the chamber as Tai displayed footage from his ship's security system, showing how quickly the three children had adapted to alien technology. In just 48 hours, 3 untrained human juveniles breached our most advanced security systems, mastered our language, reprogrammed our technology, and negotiated diplomatic terms. They did not see our technology as mysterious or magical, merely as puzzles to be solved. A representative from the Xorian Empire stood, their crystalline form catching the light. "Yet adult humans do not display these same abilities. How do you explain this contradiction?" Ta nodded. "That is the most fascinating aspect. As humans mature, they sacrifice some of this neural plasticity for efficiency and specialization. Adult humans are formidable, but their children are extraordinary. It appears to be an evolutionary trade-off unique to their species." A High Council leader leaned forward. "And your recommendation, researcher Ta. Tai took a deep breath. Based on my findings and the subsequent diplomatic exchanges with Earth's representatives, I recommend the establishment of new contact protocols. Observe humans only from a distance, never interfere with their young. Direct engagement should be limited to adult representatives through official channels. The recommendation was adopted with surprising speed. Within weeks, every spacefaring species had received updated guidelines on human interaction. Training programs were revised, and warning beacons were placed at the edges of human space. Meanwhile, on Earth, changes were happening too. In a sleek building in Seoul, 3 children sat around a table covered with alien technology, carefully taking apart and reassembling devices as scientists took notes. Try connecting that circuit to the power source, Minho suggested to Doyun, who nodded and made the adjustment. The device hummed to life, projecting a 3-dimensional star map into the air above them. Ambassador Hannah watched from behind a glass wall, alongside several government officials. Those 3 have advanced our understanding of alien technology by at least 50 years, she noted with pride. They've become quite the celebrities, remarked one official. Are you concerned about the attention? Hannah shook her head. They're handling it well. Besides, their story serves a purpose. Other species now approach us with appropriate caution. Inside the laboratory, Juwoo had picked up what appeared to be a communication device. I think I can improve the translation matrix, she said, already beginning to reprogram it. The Galactic Standard has too many unnecessary rules. A scientist entered the room, carrying several tablets. We've received the first diplomatic exchange package from the Galactic Council, he announced. They're seeking permission to establish a monitored observation post near Jupiter. Tell them yes, Minho said without looking up from his work, but make sure they know the rules. Across the galaxy, the newly updated Galactic Exploration Manual was being distributed to all research vessels. On page 1, highlighted in bold text, was a new warning. Remember, if you must encounter humans, deal only with the adults. The children are not what they seem. They appear harmless, but their capacity for adaptation and learning makes them potentially the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Under no circumstances are human juveniles to be approached, studied, or collected without explicit permission through diplomatic channels. In the final paragraph, added by Tai himself, human children represent the greatest mystery and wonder we have encountered in our exploration. They remind us that true intelligence is not measured by what one knows, but by how quickly one can learn what one does not. On Earth, 3 ordinary children smiled as they continued to unlock the secrets of the stars, one alien puzzle at a time.